Arsenal duo Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel Martinelli have been rewarded for their form this season with a call-up to Brazil's World Cup squad. Tottenham's Richarlison has also been included a month after he suffered a calf injury, which he feared might rule him out.
Pedro, Flamengo. Raphinha, Barcelona. Richarlison.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that calf, is there? Brilliant news for him. Tim Vickery, South American football expert, joins us now. Tim, very good evening. So let's start with Richarlison then. We've just seen him jumping around. Are you surprised that he's made it, given those fitness issues?
Not at all. He scored 7 goals in his last 6 games for Brazil. He is their penalty area finisher. They've got plenty of players to build up the play. They need someone to finish in the penalty area, and he's been the man. He's the informed man. There was real worry when he limped off for that game, but Brazil's doctor came over, had a look, and they're very confident he's going to be firing on all cylinders come November the 24th.
Indeed, and also in the squad, the Arsenal duo, Martinelli and Jesus, but no Gabriel. Is that a surprise?
No, he wasn't in the last. In fact, none of them were in the last squad. With Gabriel Magalhães, he was in the squad for a while without playing. And I think it became clear that the coach didn't trust him enough. So his exclusion is not a surprise. Gabriel Jesus was always in. I know he was left out of the last squad, but he was always in. Gabriel Martinelli, this is something which has given the coach sleepless nights. I was with the coach 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was after Arsenal had beaten Liverpool. And Martinelli, and in the coach's word, had been the best player on the field. Now, back then, a month or so ago, I don't think Martinelli was in the squad. But he's forced his way in through sheer week after week excellence for Arsenal. But it's been a very, very difficult decision. How are you going to get him in? Well, there were 2 ways. One was to only pick one right back and not take Daniel Alves, who's now 39. That's the thing that's getting most of the headlines over here, that Daniel Alves, now in Mexico without a lot of football behind him, is still included at the age of 39. Could have left him out, used Eder Militao at centre-back to cover the right-back position and opened up another space for a striker. Chose not to do that. But the fella who's been left out is Roberto Firmino of Liverpool. Now, Brazil are taking a little bit of a risk here. And Martinelli, as you know, is a wide striker. Brazil have more wide strikers than they know what to do with. What they don't have is a straight replacement for Neymar. And Neymar, well, both friendlies they've had recently, they won them both very, very well, but he picked up yellow cards in both of those games. He does that in the World Cup, he's suspended. They don't have an obvious replacement for him in that false 9 position. Firmino was their man. They've decided to leave him out. I think that heaps responsibility on young Rodrygo of Real Madrid to step into that role if needed. But I can tell you, I think the coach has had sleepless nights about how to get Martinelli in, and probably sleepless nights about leaving Roberto Firmino out.
I bet, indeed. I'm glad you mentioned Dani Alves, because you've got Alves, you've got Thiago Silva, combined age of 474. Does that mean Brazil are going to be attacked at this World Cup?
Well, their defensive record is excellent in recent years. They don't look like conceding goals. There have been some of the games where the goalkeeper could take a deck chair out. Now, I don't think Daniel Alves is going to be first choice. I think that's going to be Danilo, the former Man City man. Thiago Silva, coming out of the last World Cup, they never imagined that he would be there. And they've been preparing Eder Militao of Real Madrid to take over. And Eder Militao has never let them down. In fact, in the World Cup qualifiers, when he played alongside Marquinhos of Paris Saint-Germain, who's now the leading centre-back, they didn't concede a single goal. But Thiago Silva's form continues to amaze them. And not only his form, his fitness as well, is the number of sprints that he's able to carry out at high pace during a game. Now, this is a Brazilian coaching staff who are extremely methodical in terms of numbers and all the fitness statistics. They certainly don't think they're taking any kind of a gamble on Thiago Silva. They do perhaps just in the back of their minds think they might be taking a gamble with Daniel Alves. But as I say, I think it's probably unlikely that he's going to be first choice.
OK, 12 Premier League players in the Brazil squad. How many do you think have got a good chance of making that starting 11?
Well, let's go through it. Alisson will be in goal. That's a certainty. Thiago Silva, I think, will be at the left-sided centre-back. So you've got two there. The two in the midfield, the engine room is Casemiro and Fred of Man United, plus Lucas Paqueta. Lucas Paqueta is an absolute certainty, assuming that he's fit. He's their joker in the pack. They move him around different positions. And that Richarlison will be the centre forward. So if everyone's fit, the only one of those who is vulnerable, I think, is Fred, because the most attacking lineup that Brazil have is with Lucas Paqueta playing the Fred role, playing as the second man in midfield. That's a very bold way to play, but that's one of the tactical formations that they have in their locker. So there's going to be a very, very strong Premier League contingent, not only on the bench, but also on the field.
And who else should we be looking out for, Tim, in that squad?
Well, the local hero over here is there's only 3 domestically based players in the squad. And the local hero over here is the centre forward, Pedro, of Flamengo, who was the top goal scorer in South America's Champions League, the Copa Libertadores. He had a brief go with Fiorentina. It only lasted 4 games. I think he was coming back from a cruciate operation and wasn't at his best. But he's not quick. But he is very, very good in the penalty area. He's an excellent finisher and he's very technically accomplished. I don't think he's going to start. But let's say you're chasing a game and the opposition are defending deep. Pedro then is the man who comes on. I think he's just announced that now that he's been called up, he's going to propose marriage to his girlfriend. But also, he's one of those players you can imagine him after the World Cup getting another crack at European football. So I think Pedro of Flamengo is certainly one to look out for.
OK, you know me, Tim. I'm very happy to speak on behalf of the whole world, so I'm going to. Brazil are everybody's second team, aren't they? I started this by saying they are favourites. Will they live up to that?
I think, Mike, they're not quite as much everyone's second team as they used to be when we were kids. I hope, and this is a good team and it's a well-trained team. The real benefit of having the same coach for a complete 4-year cycle. And I hope, Mike, that win or lose, they will thrill us with how they go about it. And even if they don't win the trophy, they'll make us want to be Brazilian again. That's my hope for this team. But they're certainly there in the fight. The thing that makes it difficult to judge is that as a result, a little bit of the pandemic and a lot of the Nations League, there's been almost no international football between Europe and South America since the last World Cup. And the only European opposition that Brazil faced was a visit to the Czech Republic 3 years ago. Now, that's important because since Brazil won the World Cup last in 2002, every campaign has ended when they've come up against a Western European side in the knockout stages. That's where the bar is. I think this team are capable of overcoming that bar. But one thing we're going to have to find out, how will they cope under pressure if they go behind in a big game? In the build-up, Mike, things have almost been going too well. They haven't been under scoreboard pressure. How will they cope if they do find themselves in that situation? Because you don't win the World Cup in the easy games, you win it in the tough ones. And over the last year and a half, they haven't really had too many tough ones. Indeed. Well, they're definitely my second team. So, Tim Vickery, obrigado. Thanks, Tim. Thank you. My pleasure.